Hey guys, what's up? It's Felix here, and welcome to another episode of Redstone and Command Blocks, programming in Minecraft. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the clone command.
So basically, the clone command, it takes a selected structure, for example this one, and it clones it somewhere else. And let's take a look at the syntax of this thing. Clone. So it says clone x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2, and then xyz, and then mask mode and clone mode. So basically, like we covered last time, if you mark two blocks, then they sort of circle out a small area, and that is what basically x1, y1, z1, x2, z y2, z2 are for. They are the two blocks that circle out a certain area, and these blocks can also be basically any two corners. They can also be these two corners, this corner and that corner. As long as they circle out the whole structure, it's fine. It cannot be these two corners, because the only thing these two corners find or circle out is these three blocks. And these two corners on the two corners of the structure circle out everything. And if we take a look at this larger circle or sphere over here, this corner and this corner circle out practically the whole thing. Okay, now that we've got that one out of the way, let's actually take a look at how to use this command. So first of all, clone, the keyword, input everything, the coordinates of the 2 points, and then input the place where you want to clone it to. So I think it always clones towards the south. So the block that you should be noting is this one, in this case. So basically I'm cloning that structure over here. So the X, Y, and Z in this case is this block, the place that you want to clone it to. So basically it's, I didn't mean to take a screenshot over there. So basically south and east. So it clones towards the south and the east. So it goes towards the south, and it also goes towards the east. Okay, cool. So basically, a simple clone command would be this. So I've already got the two coordinates over there for this structure, this one and that one, or it can be this one and that one, or it can be this one and that one, and a lot. So I've circled out marked these two blocks and circled out this whole area over here. So and I've cloned it to this block. So let's see what happens. That structure, exactly like that, was cloned here. And as for this one, I've circled out this whole structure, cloning it right here. Still also in this block. So it sets us back to this place. Okay, now let's take a look at what the mask mode means. So mask mode, basically, it selects what blocks that you want to clone. So basically, there are three sort of mask mode, I guess. The first one is called replace. So it's like a simple replace. And what it does is it clones every single block, including error blocks. So just in case you don't know, there are blocks in Minecraft, even the blocks that, well, I can't speak today. Even the blocks that we're walking through right now, it's called error blocks. So when we set block and we want to clear that, we set the block to error. So these are all error blocks, or invisible blocks. So error blocks. And there is a block which sort of gets rid of this problem. It's called the structure void block. If you're familiar with 1.10, you would know this. Structure void. So basically, if you place that down, as you can see, there's nothing there but the structure void. And the structure void allows other blocks to override it. So if I'm trying to clone an area with structure void in it, then the block that ends up in the place of the structure void will override the structure void. So if I try to clone the structure void block, for example, over to here, to this stone block, if I clone this over here, then because there's nothing in there, the stone takes up the void. So this is basically sort of creates like a vacuum. Anyways, we can also do that without placing structure void blocks everywhere. And that brings us to the second mode. It's called masked. So basically, it clones every single block except for error blocks. So as you can see, there are a small like ring of error blocks around this structure. And it won't clone these blocks because they're error blocks in the masked mode, of course. If it's replaced, those error blocks will be cloned. This is set on replace. As you can see, replace. So let's reset this one over here. This one is set on masked. So basically, it won't clone error blocks. So you might not get like what I mean by not cloning error blocks. So those are all error blocks. If I clone it over here, then it sees that the like block that's stained glass right over here. It senses that this one needs to be air because that block over there is air. So it just clears this ring as well as cloning like the other non-error blocks. But basically, what the mask mode does is it ignores error blocks, and it only clones non-error blocks, in this case the structure inside. So it'll leave this ring of stained glass alone. So if I press this button over here, as you can see, the small ring of like stained glass is left alone, and only the non-error blocks in that like creation like sort of structure was cloned. Only the non-error blocks. The error blocks, they are overridden by these stained glass blocks. Now let's quickly reset this one. And there's one last mode, filtered. So basically, what the filter mode is you can clone only certain blocks, which means if you're like trying to filter something, like actually let me just show you the command straight away. So basically, same command before, filtered. It says filtered here. And basically what this means is we're trying to only clone certain blocks and leave the other blocks alone. This normal we'll get to later since it's basically the clone mode. But if you're gonna have anything after this, make sure that you don't leave this blank. We're gonna go over that one like in a sec over there. It's the clone mode. So for now, just normal. And redstone block. So basically filtered, and then after the whole command, after the clone mode, you put the block that you want to clone. So in this case, I only want to clone the redstone blocks, which is these two blocks. I only want to clone them. I don't want like it to clone any of these error blocks or any of these stone blocks. So the stone blocks, the error blocks, pretty much everything except for like the block that you selected will be not cloned or left alone. So in this case, I selected the redstone block, so it'll only clone the redstone block. Still over there. Let's take a look. Yep, only the redstone blocks are cloned. The rest, nothing happened. So this is basically like the mask mode of the clone command. Now let's take a look at the clone mode. So basically, as for the clone mode, there are like three sort of selections. The first one is called normal, the one we looked at over there. So basically what normal is it's sort of like just normal. It just takes this one, selects these, and puts these somewhere else. It's just normal. It's like the normal clone command. Now, there are like another one called forced. So basically, if I try to clone like this, which means like the target area, this area that I selected with these two redstone blocks, like the area I selected and the area I wanted to clone to is overlapping. So if you don't get what that means, you will in a sec. So if I take away force and then I click this button, nothing will happen. Why? Because the source and destination cannot overlap. So they're overlapping right now, which means like the destination, I think it's somewhere like here, I think. Like this is the structure. I'm not exactly sure though. So like, yeah. So the destination, the place I want to clone this structure to, and the place where, so basically I'm trying to clone the structure inside the structure itself. So I'm trying to clone the structure inside the selected area. And basically it won't allow me to do that unless the clone mode is on forced. Force, I think. Force, yeah. Unless it's on force. In this case, it will force clone it. So I'm basically cloning this whole structure. You can see if I cut away these blocks over here, these 6 blocks, this one is the structure that there is before. But then some of the blocks in the old structure, the original structure, is overridden by the blocks here. For example, this one used to be stone. Now, since it's forced and the block, the stone block here is like forced to be cloned. So basically, you can see this as sort of based on the coordinates. The coordinates, I set them so that it sort of looks like you move this whole structure over by 1, and then you don't erase like the thing it left behind. I made it so it kind of looked like that. I can't speak today. Anyways, so as you can see here, the blocks are overridden. The target area is originally this one, and this one down here. This one used to be a redstone block, but now this redstone block came and this stone block actually came and took the redstone block's place. So let's sort of restore this whole structure by like hand restoring it. I remember it's like oops, like this, and there you go. So yeah, the forced one, it will just force and clone this thing, even if it's cloning into the original structure itself. Okay, now let's take a look at the last one. So we already have normal, force, and now let's take a look at move. So basically what move is it moves. Yeah, it moves. So basically, it will clone the structure over to the target area, which is somewhere here, the target area, somewhere above this command block. And so it will clone it over here, and it will set the original, structure, the original array of blocks here, to air. Or in other words, sort of moving it. So, I don't know if this one's the one that moves it. Yeah, it is. So as you can see, if I press this button here, it moved this structure from there over here. And if I click this button, it will move the structure from here over to there. So if I click this and stand here and click this, you can clearly see that it's actually being moved, right? So this is really useful for building like machines that sort of like airplanes, and you want this whole thing to like clone and move forward without having to set certain blocks to air. So it can actually get like these sort of moving animation, and it's really useful. So that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and guys, goodbye.